Have you ever wondered if the very exercises you perform religiously each day, believing they're strengthening your legs, might actually be silently destroying the foundation of your mobility? The heartbreaking reality is that countless seniors unknowingly engage in exercise routines that, rather than preserving their leg strength, are systematically damaging joints, straining muscles, and accelerating the decline they're desperately trying to prevent. What makes this tragedy even more devastating is that these destructive movements often masquerade as beneficial fitness activities recommended by well-meaning sources who fail to understand the unique vulnerabilities of aging bodies. Here are 5 seemingly innocent exercises that may be secretly sabotaging your leg health and stealing your independence, one repetition at a time. 5. Leg press machine, the deceptive strength destroyer. The leg press machine sits prominently in gyms across America, gleaming with chrome and promising to build powerful legs through what appears to be a safe, controlled movement. For seniors seeking to maintain their leg strength, this machine often seems like the perfect solution. You're seated securely, there's no balance required, and you can load it with impressive amounts of weight. However, beneath this veneer of safety lies a biomechanical nightmare that can devastate aging joints and muscles. The fundamental problem with the leg press lies in its unnatural movement pattern that forces your knees and hips into extreme positions while under heavy load. When you lower the weight platform, your knees are driven toward your chest in a position that creates dangerous compression forces on your knee joints and places enormous stress on your lower back. This forced flexion, combined with the machine's fixed pathway, eliminates the natural movement variations that protect your joints during real-world activities. Consider the experience of Patricia, a determined 68-year-old retired teacher who joined a gym specifically to maintain her leg strength after noticing difficulty climbing stairs. The friendly gym staff directed her to the leg press machine, assuring her it was perfect for seniors. Patricia diligently used the machine 3 times per week for 6 months, gradually increasing the weight as she felt stronger. However, instead of the improved mobility she expected, Patricia began experiencing persistent knee pain and stiffness that seemed to worsen after each workout. Her lower back, which had never bothered her before, began aching constantly. Most concerning was that despite her apparent strength gains on the machine, she found real-world activities like getting up from chairs or walking upstairs becoming more difficult, not easier. The revelation came when Patricia consulted a physical therapist who explained how the leg press machine had been systematically damaging her joints. The extreme knee flexion was wearing down her cartilage. The fixed movement pattern was creating muscle imbalances, and the seated position was teaching her body movement patterns that had no translation to functional activities. The leg press machine creates what exercise professionals call non-functional strength, power that exists only within the artificial confines of the machine, but fails to transfer to real-world movements. Worse, it can create dangerous compensation patterns where some muscles become overdeveloped while others weaken, leading to instability and increased injury risk during daily activities. This understanding of how seemingly safe machines can harbor hidden dangers prepares us to examine an exercise that many consider the gold standard of leg training, yet poses even greater risks for aging bodies. 4. Deep squats. The mobility myth that destroys joints. Deep squats have achieved almost mythical status in fitness circles, praised as the ultimate exercise for leg strength, mobility, and functional movement. Fitness enthusiasts and trainers often promote the idea that everyone should be able to perform deep squats regardless of age, as a marker of healthy mobility. For seniors, this message can be particularly seductive, promising to restore youthful movement patterns and prevent age-related decline. The reality, however, is far more complex and potentially dangerous for aging bodies. Deep squats require extreme ranges of motion in multiple joints simultaneously, demanding levels of mobility, stability, and coordination that many seniors simply cannot achieve safely. When older adults attempt to force their bodies into these positions, The results can be catastrophic for their joint health and overall well-being. The deep squat movement requires your ankles to dorsiflex significantly, your knees to flex beyond 90 degrees, and your hips to achieve deep flexion while maintaining proper spinal alignment. For seniors dealing with natural age-related changes in joint mobility, muscle flexibility, and balance. Attempting this movement often results in dangerous compensations that place enormous stress on vulnerable structures. Meet George, a 72-year-old former construction worker who took pride in his physical capabilities and was determined to maintain his strength through exercise. Influenced by online fitness content promoting deep squats as essential for healthy aging, George began incorporating them into his daily routine. He struggled initially but persisted, believing that achieving a deep squat would prove his continued vitality. Over several months, George noticed increasing pain and stiffness in his knees and lower back. His ankles began feeling tight and uncomfortable, and he developed a persistent ache in his hips that interfered with his sleep. Most alarming was that his balance seemed to be getting worse, not better, despite his dedicated practice. A sports medicine physician eventually diagnosed George with multiple issues directly related to his deep squat practice. The extreme positions had inflamed his knee joints, created hip impingement, and caused compensatory tightness throughout his lower body. The forced movements had actually reduced his functional mobility rather than improving it. Deep squats can be particularly harmful for seniors because they often mask underlying mobility limitations through compensatory movements. When your ankles lack sufficient flexibility, your knees compensate by moving inward. When your hips are tight, your lower back rounds excessively. These compensations create harmful stress patterns that accumulate over time, leading to pain dysfunction and increased injury risk. The pursuit of deep squat mobility often becomes an obsession that distracts from more beneficial and safer movement practices, setting the stage for even more specialized and dangerous exercises that promise enhanced function but deliver devastating consequences. 3. Cossack squats. The lateral movement trap. Cossack squats represent one of the most deceptively dangerous exercises that seniors encounter in their quest for improved mobility and leg strength. This lateral movement, which involves squatting deeply to one side while keeping the opposite leg straight, is often promoted as an excellent way to improve hip mobility and address movement imbalances. However, for aging bodies, this exercise represents a perfect storm of biomechanical stress that can cause immediate injury or long-term joint damage. The Cossack squat demands extreme lateral flexibility, single-leg stability, and complex coordination that few seniors possess safely. The movement requires you to shift your entire body weight onto one leg while descending into a deep lateral squat position, simultaneously demanding that your supporting leg achieve extreme hip and ankle mobility while your extended leg maintains flexibility in positions it rarely encounters in daily life. This exercise is particularly treacherous because it combines multiple risk factors for senior injuries: unilateral loading and extreme ranges of motion, lateral movement patterns, and dynamic balance challenges. Each of these elements alone can be problematic for aging bodies. Combined together, they create a recipe for disaster that can end in serious injury and long-term mobility loss. Let me share the unfortunate story of Carol, a 65-year-old yoga enthusiast who discovered Cossack squats through an online mobility program specifically marketed to seniors. The instructor promised that this exercise would unlock her hips, improve her balance, and restore youthful movement patterns. Carol was particularly attracted to the idea of addressing what she perceived as stiffness and asymmetry in her hips. Carol began practicing Cossack squats daily, starting with shallow ranges of motion, and gradually attempting to go deeper as the program instructed. She experienced some discomfort initially, but was told this was normal and would improve with consistency. After 3 weeks of dedicated practice, Carol felt a sharp pain in her hip during one repetition and found herself unable to bear weight on that leg. Medical evaluation revealed a hip labral tear and significant inflammation in her hip joint injuries directly attributable to the repetitive extreme positioning required by Cossack squats. The lateral forces and extreme ranges of motion had exceeded her hip joint's capacity to adapt safely, resulting in structural damage that required months of rehabilitation and significantly limited her mobility. Cossack squats are particularly dangerous for seniors because they exploit natural asymmetries and mobility limitations that develop with age. Rather than respecting these changes and working within safe ranges, the exercise forces the body into positions that can cause immediate tissue damage or create compensatory patterns that lead to future problems. The lateral loading pattern of Cossack squats also places enormous stress on knee ligaments and ankle structures that are not designed to handle such forces, particularly in aging joints, where ligament elasticity and joint stability naturally decline. This creates vulnerability to both acute injuries and chronic overuse problems that can permanently compromise mobility. Understanding these risks helps us recognize how the pursuit of extreme mobility can become counterproductive, leading us to examine another category of exercises that promise vitality but often deliver devastating consequences for aging leg health. 2. High-impact jumping exercises. The explosive movement illusion. High-impact jumping exercises have gained tremendous popularity in senior fitness programs promoted as essential for maintaining bone density, improving power, and preserving the explosive movement capabilities that decline with age. Plyometric training box jumps and various jumping routines are often presented as the fountain of youth for aging legs, promising to restore the spring in your step and prevent the gradual loss of fast-twitch muscle fibers. While the theoretical benefits of impact training are well documented, the practical reality for most seniors is far more dangerous than beneficial. High-impact exercises place enormous stress on joints, bones, and soft tissues that have undergone decades of wear and natural age-related changes. The forces generated during jumping and landing can exceed multiple times your body weight, creating loads that aging structures simply cannot handle safely. The landing phase of jumping exercises is particularly problematic for seniors. As we age, our reaction times slow, our proprioception diminishes, and our ability to absorb and dissipate forces efficiently decreases. This means that what should be a controlled landing often becomes a jarring impact that sends shock waves through vulnerable knee joints, hip structures, and spinal segments. Consider the case of Richard, a 69-year-old retired engineer who joined a senior fitness boot camp that emphasized functional movement and athletic performance. The program included box jumps, broad jumps, and various plyometric exercises that the instructor insisted were necessary for maintaining real-world power and preventing falls through improved reactive ability. Richard approached these exercises with the same methodical determination that had served him well in his engineering career. He started conservatively, but gradually increased the intensity and height of his jumps as the program progressed. For several weeks, Richard felt energized and proud of his apparent athletic abilities, believing he was successfully fighting the aging process. The reality check came during what seemed like a routine box jump session. Richard's foot caught the edge of the box, sending him tumbling backward and resulting in a compression fracture of his vertebrae and a severe ankle sprain. The injury required surgical intervention and months of rehabilitation, ultimately leaving him with chronic pain and significantly reduced mobility. Investigation revealed that Richard's injury was not a freak accident, but the predictable result of accumulated stress and age-related changes that made high-impact exercises inappropriate for his body. His bones had been gradually weakening despite appearing healthy. His reflexes had slowed enough to compromise his landing mechanics, and his joints had lost the resilience needed to handle repeated high-impact forces. High-impact jumping exercises are particularly deceptive because they often feel manageable initially, especially for seniors who maintain reasonable fitness levels. However, the cumulative stress builds silently over time, creating micro-damage that eventually manifests as acute injuries or chronic problems that can permanently compromise mobility and independence. The promise of maintaining youthful explosive power through jumping exercises often blinds seniors to the reality that their bodies have fundamentally changed and require different approaches to maintain health and function. This misunderstanding sets the stage for the most technically complex and dangerous exercise that many seniors attempt in their quest for functional strength. 1. Single-leg Romanian deadlift. The balance and stability destroyer. The single-leg Romanian deadlift represents the pinnacle of exercise complexity and danger for senior populations, combining multiple high-risk elements into one movement that promises functional strength and balance improvements, but often delivers catastrophic results. This exercise requires standing on one leg while hinging at the hip to lower the torso toward the ground, simultaneously extending the non-supporting leg behind the body for balance. Fitness professionals often promote this exercise as the ultimate functional movement for seniors, claiming it mimics real-world activities and improves the single-leg stability needed for walking, climbing stairs, and preventing falls. The reality is that this exercise demands levels of balance, coordination, flexibility, and strength that most seniors cannot achieve safely, making it one of the most dangerous movements older adults can attempt. The single-leg Romanian deadlift requires exceptional proprioceptive ability to maintain balance on one leg while moving through complex ranges of motion. It demands significant hamstring and hip flexibility to achieve the proper movement pattern, substantial core strength to maintain spinal stability, and precise motor control to coordinate the multiple moving parts safely. For seniors dealing with natural age-related declines in all these areas, attempting this exercise is like trying to perform a high-wire act without proper training or safety equipment. The tragic story of Helen, a 74-year-old former dancer, illustrates the devastating potential of this exercise. Helen had maintained her flexibility and grace throughout her life and was drawn to exercises that promised to preserve her movement quality. When she discovered the single-leg Romanian deadlift through a functional movement program, she was convinced it would help maintain her balance and prevent the falls that had claimed several of her friends. Helen practiced the movement diligently, starting with no weight and focusing on the movement pattern as instructed. She felt confident in her abilities and gradually began adding light weights to increase the challenge. During what seemed like a routine practice session, Helen lost her balance while attempting the movement and fell backwards, striking her head on a nearby table and suffering a severe concussion along with multiple bruises and a wrist fracture. The incident revealed that Helen's proprioceptive abilities had declined more than she realized. Her reaction times had slowed enough to prevent effective balance recovery, and her confidence in her physical abilities had become dangerously disconnected from her actual capabilities. The exercise that was supposed to improve her balance had instead exposed and exploited her vulnerabilities in the most harmful way possible. Single-leg Romanian deadlifts are particularly dangerous for seniors because they create an unstable environment where even minor balance perturbations can result in falls and serious injuries. The complex movement pattern provides multiple opportunities for things to go wrong, from loss of balance to muscle cramps to coordination failures that can send someone tumbling. The exercise also tends to reinforce existing asymmetries and weaknesses rather than correcting them. Seniors often compensate for limitations on their weaker side by developing dysfunctional movement patterns that increase injury risk during the exercise and carry over into daily activities, making them more vulnerable to falls and mobility problems. This understanding of how technical complexity can become a liability rather than an asset helps us recognize the need for safer, more appropriate alternatives that can provide genuine benefits without exposing seniors to unnecessary risks. Safer alternatives for sustainable leg strength. The key to maintaining leg health and strength as we age lies not in pushing our bodies through extreme ranges of motion or complex movement patterns, but in choosing exercises that work with our changing physiology rather than against it. Effective alternatives focus on building strength within comfortable ranges of motion, improving stability through supported movements, and enhancing function through activities that directly translate to daily life. Chair-supported squats provide the benefits of squatting movements while eliminating the risks associated with deep or unsupported positions. Wall sits build isometric strength safely while teaching proper alignment. Step-ups using appropriate step heights challenge single-leg strength without the balance demands of complex movements. Resistance band exercises offer variable resistance that accommodates joint limitations while providing strengthening benefits throughout comfortable ranges of motion. Seated leg extensions and hamstring curls can build targeted strength without placing stress on vulnerable joints or challenging compromised balance systems. The psychological benefits of safe, appropriate exercise. When seniors engage in exercise programs designed specifically for their needs and limitations, the psychological benefits extend far beyond physical improvements. Safe, successful exercise experiences build confidence. Rather than fear, create positive associations with movement, rather than anxiety, and foster a sense of capability, rather than vulnerability. Appropriate exercise programs help seniors maintain their sense of physical competence while respecting the realities of aging bodies. This balanced approach prevents the discouragement and fear that often result from attempting inappropriate exercises and failing to achieve unrealistic goals. Building a sustainable approach to leg health. Long-term success in maintaining leg strength and mobility requires abandoning the no pain, no gain mentality that pervades much of the fitness industry and embracing approaches that prioritize safety, sustainability, and gradual progress. This means choosing exercises based on individual capabilities rather than generic recommendations, progressing slowly rather than aggressively, and focusing on consistency rather than intensity. The most effective exercise programs for seniors emphasize movement quality over quantity, function over performance, and safety over challenge. They recognize that the goal is not to recreate youthful athletic performance, but to maintain the strength and mobility needed for independent living and quality of life. Conclusion: your home should heal, not harm. The lack of professional supervision, appropriate supportive equipment, and proper understanding combined with impatience in training to maintain leg strength can transform your home into a torture chamber for the muscles, joints, and bones of aging legs. Every exercise you choose represents a decision between supporting your body's natural aging process or fighting against it in ways that can cause more harm than good. The pursuit of strength and mobility should enhance your life, not threaten it with unnecessary risks and potential injuries. Your legs have carried you through decades of life and deserve exercises that honor their service while respecting their current capabilities. The path to maintaining leg health lies not in extreme challenges or complex movements, but in consistent, appropriate activities that build strength safely and sustainably. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more insights on safe senior fitness. Leave a comment sharing your own experiences with exercise modifications, and give this video a thumbs up if it helped you understand these hidden exercise dangers. Share this information with friends and family who could benefit from safer approaches to maintaining their leg strength and mobility.